And that's why I loved it after I'd been a yoga teacher for so long, you know. And then I found this practice where you could like get off your mat and connect with somebody else and have all this play and all of these possibilities and all of this, like this whole other world of what yoga could be.
Hey, g'day folks. I want to welcome you all to another episode of the Acro Jam Podcast. My partner Sarah and I want to say a huge thank you for joining us to listen to something like this. The fact that anyone wants to check this out and listen to it makes us feel so grateful. As you might have saw in the episode description, this episode of the podcast is a bonus re-release of a previous episode of the Acro Jam Podcast. We are re-releasing all our previous episodes as we weren't really happy with the audio quality, and we want to share and promote the best version of the Acro Jam podcast that we can. So yeah, Sarah and I recently upgraded our podcasting recording devices and our editing software, so things are sounding heaps better, and I hope you enjoy this re-release and all the new episodes that are to come. So before we get into this episode, I just want to tell you that Sarah and I do this podcast purely to promote part and acrobatics in all its forms around the world. We get to share the thoughts and experience of all these awesome teachers who sit down with us, and we can share these with those of you who we know will benefit from them. But yeah, we're just two people, so we would be super grateful if you ever felt compelled to help us out and promote the podcast in any way. I don't know, you could like and subscribe on iTunes, you could leave us a 5-star review, you could share it with your local acro community, or you could just tell a friend who you think might be interested in it and has some long boring drive or stayed at an airport or a flight or something and might want to listen to something acro related. Anyway, if you don't want to do any of that, that's cool too. The fact that you're choosing to listen to this is just so cool to me, and I hope you enjoy. So without any further ado, please enjoy this re-released and remastered episode of the Acro Jam Podcast. This week we are joined by the lovely Ebony Prins all the way from Tasmania.
Ebony is not only an established acro teacher, she also is a yoga teacher, a remedial therapist, and she has branched into breathwork and body-centered counselling. Ebony is co-founder of the enterprise Threads, and through Threads, Ebony and her acro partner Scott run annual acro retreats in Tasmania and weekly classes in Hobart. It was at an acro yoga retreat in Byron Bay in 2018 that we recorded this podcast. A little while ago now, so some of the information may be out of date, but it's still a fantastic listen. We hope you enjoy it.
So we're here with Ebony, and it's a beautiful Byron Bay morning on the northern rivers of Australia. I'm here with Sarah, as usual. So Ebony, can you tell us a bit about why we are here in Byron this morning?
Sure. So we've just wrapped up 5 days of training of our intensive that we run up here every year, Byron Bay Acro Flyaway. And you guys were students on that.
Yeah.
And now we've got together to have a chat, which is great.
So yeah, the Flyaway, how did this all start? What was the beginning phases of this now annual reoccurring or biannual reoccurring festival?
Yeah, well, I guess we have two flyaways, right? So we have the Tasmanian Acro Flyaway and the Byron Flyaway. And it really all stemmed from the first Tasmanian Acro Flyaway. So this is like the 7th one we've run now between both of the festivals. So the first one, it was a dream, really, you know. I'd always run retreats, so I used to run yoga retreats before I went into training acro yoga, and just really loved that experience of like creating experiences for people. You know, I love acro yoga, obviously, and training the acro and doing all the fun stuff, but really this time of like bringing people together to create a bit of an experience outside of their regular life and to connect with others and community in a new way. So yeah, once me and Scott, we'd finished our teacher training with partner acrobatics and we were back in Tassie, And we just started dreaming into like, how can we create that here? How can we create a bit of an experience for people? We drove over to a little island called Bruny Island, just off the southern coast of Tassie one day, and found this big like shearing farm with a few like little, shearing quarters that people could sleep in. We had a friend who had a big circus tent, and we were like, cool, let's just set the circus tent up here by the beach. We were already friends with some international acrobats. So Nico Dowes, who was one of our teachers, and he said he'd be keen to come down, and that was just really the birth of the first ever flyaway. So he flew down, it was just him and me and Scott, and we set up his circus tent on the beach. It was very affordable, and it was more just like 3 to 5 days of experimenting. What can we do with this? Where can we take it? And it was a total success. We had so much fun, and the students got so much out of it. So from that point on, we just kept going, refining it, making it a little more fluid, and then we branched off to run another one in Byron. So we could come to the warm weather.
How has it changed over the last, that would be 4 years?
Yeah.
From that small one.
That first one.
Yeah.
We've definitely, so we've got more equipment. So over the years, we've kind of upgraded just how we do the whole setup. So now we also have standing lunges. We also have all the puzzle mats. We own our own circus tent, so we can do everything from within our own kind of hands. We invite different teachers. We invite a lot more teachers. So now we usually have anywhere between 5 to 8 teachers at every flyaway in all different disciplines. And I guess we've just also refined the whole process. In the beginning, everything's a bit of an experiment, like what works, what flows, being able to read students and what is necessary, where the students are at, and how to flow with that whole scheduling as well. So everything just, it's been refined down now to this kind of a nice mix of things, and adventure elements. So we've added in definitely more, like, we do lots of things on the lake, slackline on the lake, and like pontooning on the lake, acro pontoon on the lake, and kayaking, and kind of getting out into nature and really involving nature in the process of what we do as well. More and more.
So are you guys still in that experimental mindset about what works now? And do you have any other big ideas for the next one that you can share with us?
Yes, I think we are always in experimental mindset. So everything's a constant evolution, I guess. We never have like a set in stone idea, like, cool, these are what the flyaways are and this is what they're going to be every year. It's, seeing what flows and always adding in new things. And we're kind of creative human beings. It's a part of what we love about this work is that it's a platform for us to be able to share our creative outlets in different ways. And they're always changing and evolving, and diving into new forms of movement and bodywork. And so is Scott, and so are all the other teachers that we invite. So every year it is really different. And we love surprises. So it's nice to kind of shake it up every year and keep it fresh, keep it exciting for people.
What are the other forms of movement and that you've been doing lately?
So I stem from a yogic background. So I was a yoga teacher before that. So I've always had that as my kind of foundation, I guess, foundational practice. And I'm also into dance and kind of expressive movement. Dance is more of a form of intuitive movement than choreographed dance. I always sucked actually at choreographed stuff. I'm too uncoordinated for that, but I really like to express through movement. And I also do breath work. So breath work and body-centered counselling. So I've been doing that for the last 3 years. And, this is a form of more like getting into your body through the use of breath and accessing different parts of yourself with this tool, but it just connects you to, I guess, your authentic self, your soul self, and how that can also bring and change the way your body wants to move, what your body wants to express. So learning the language of your body is something that I'm really intrigued about as well, and acro is one little form of that,
Yeah, I want to talk about the breath work. It's a great tangent from acro yoga. So is this like a pranayama practice or a holotropic breathing practice?
More like holotropic breathing, but not. So I'm not trained in the holotropic branch of it, but I've done some work with that. But not pranayama. So it's not a breathing technique. It's about unleashing or becoming in touch with a full natural breath and allowing that to. Yeah, access the wisdom of your own body, basically, and the knowledge that resides there. So it can be really specific. You know, some people come in with something like that's going on in their life, or they might have had a past trauma or something they're really wanting to dive into and get a different perspective other than what their brain already knows. There's only so much we can work out with our heads, you know. So kind of having that trust to dive into the body. And as a practitioner, I guide that process. I guide them into what's there, being curious about it, and just kind of letting it come to the surface, you know. Everything is energy, basically, and energy just wants to move. So if at any point something's being kind of held or locked down or kind of shut into the body because it didn't feel safe maybe to express it or... for lots of different reasons, really, why we can kind of hold on to things. Yeah. It's still there. It's still sitting there. And the breath is just one tool that I found really helpful for getting in and reconnecting, I guess, with that energy and letting it just be expressed. And it often comes in the form of movement, or it can come in the form of sound, or just through the breath itself, whatever it is. But yeah, it's really an interesting path that I'm on at the moment that I'm passionate about.
I love it.
What did you call it again? Breath center body work?
Breathwork and body-centered counselling.
Okay.
Yes.
But that's one thing together.
Well, you can also just call it breathwork. But yes, the name that I've trained under, I guess it is that full title.
Do you always work with people one-on-one?
No, so a really interesting part of it is the group processing. So at the moment I'm seeing clients more one-on-one because I'm just starting to step into facilitating group process. But I love that because it is that you're sitting in a circle, you're sharing where you're at, you're going into a breathe, your own breathe, and then debriefing at the end. And it just creates this really nice catalyst for lots of people of what's actually up for them. Because so much stuff that comes up for us in life and that we really struggle with is usually in relationship, whether that's with a friend or family or partner or whatever it is. And so the relationship that happens in a group process is also present. You know, people can sometimes trigger each other, but they can also feel really supported by one another. And they get that chance to respond like, oh, I really know where you're at and I'm feeling that too and you're not alone and that resonates with me. And that can be just a really special thing, you know, to have that group support. And when we share our story, we connect. So, you know, it's very powerful to see how people can walk away feeling so connected to this group just by listening to where they're really at authentically in their lives. Yeah.
Must be very powerful for a participant, but also as a teacher and facilitator, to be involved with these people in that moment.
Yeah, it is. I get a lot from the work. You know, it's very, it really fills me up a lot, I guess. Yeah.
So speaking of practices that can release held emotion or held trauma, or just any sort of holding, have you encountered any sort of release through the acro yoga practice, either for yourself or students?
Totally. And so this is why I like to have these little background skills when I'm going into facilitating acro retreats, because it's all there, right? And it's so present because we're dealing with bodies and moving bodies in potentially new ways.
Yes.
Which is very similar to opening up in a new way, you know? And so, we've had people definitely express emotional, I guess, release or just coming up against their emotions during classes and workshops and retreats, whether that's frustration or whether that's pure joy as well. Like, it's not always necessarily, what we label as negative emotion. And their fears and all of these things are so present. And I've had it myself totally as well, you know. And sometimes I feel like it plays a big part in where I can go with my practice in that moment. Like if I'm entering a training session or a play session and I'm not feeling fully grounded in myself and my emotions, and how that carries out in how I connect with this other person and where we can go and what we can achieve in that session can be really different.
That's for sure. So that's me and Sarah are a life couple and acro couple, so we're very exposed to bringing external issues to the acro practice, and whether that's with ourselves or with other partnerships. So do you have any advice for people to, like what you said, to ground or center themselves before coming to share a space and work with someone else?
Yeah, well, the breath. I mean, the breath is just one of these things, right? Like, it's such a simple thing, and I know that it's in a lot of practices, but we still seem to overlook it a little bit. You know? And it doesn't have to just be the breath. There's so many tools that you can use, but for me, breathing is one where I can just come home to my body first, you know? So even if that's just standing somewhere 2 feet on the ground, closing my eyes, like just taking a moment to disconnect from everything that's external and just taking even 3 long full breaths and being really open to feeling what's present in my body at that moment. Because even if it isn't all, you know, shiny, great, amazing, or I'm feeling on top of the world, it's like if I can just stand there and breathe and be like, actually I'm feeling a little unsettled, or I'm feeling a bit vulnerable at this moment, or I'm feeling angry, or whatever it is, if I can be authentic with how I'm feeling and take that authenticity into the practice, things work. As long as I'm still connected to me first, then I can successfully connect to someone else, you know. Yeah. So,
what if I'm authentically frustrated? You know, I get that.
Yeah. Then I think that's, you know, I think that's the best part of this practice. is that we really, it's like a relationship, like you were saying, you know. It brings it to the surface and kind of shoves it in your face, and I guess it's just how you respond, you know, like, are you reacting or are you responding? And so it's good to just check in with that. If you're just going to bring that frustration in and throw it at your partner, but if you can respond to be like, I recognize that I'm feeling frustrated at this point, maybe I need to take a break, maybe I can respond in a different way. You know, using those tools, or maybe I just need to go off into the forest and have a big scream, or have a big, I call it wood chopper, where you bring your like arms above your head, you let out a big like scream and let your arms come down like you're chopping a block of wood. You know, like something that just moves that energy. Yeah. You know, and it can be exciting. Then you're like, oh wow, I don't know if that was even about the acro, but you know, it hit something in my body that brought it up.
Well, that's one of the aspects that we really like about the acro practice, particularly coming from yoga student and yoga teaching background, is that yoga practices talk so much about giving you an opportunity to see where you're at and deal with emotion and deal with resistance and overcome these things, but you're very often very isolated. And so the acro practice gives you a more social and exposed and more vulnerable place to meet your challenges and to meet your issues, and then to work together successfully with someone else. You're going to work very hard, and you can't just, because often you can use a yoga practice to ignore what's really going on, but an acro yoga practice, it's in your face. You can't get away from it.
That's right. And that's why I loved it after I'd been a yoga teacher for so long, you know. And then I found this practice where you could like get off your mat and connect with somebody else and have all this play and all of these possibilities and all of this, like this whole other world of what yoga could be.
Can you tell us how you found acro yoga?
Yeah, sure. I was traveling around the world for about 3 years, just kind of gypsying out for a little while. And the first time I ever did it was at a big gathering in Portugal, a big festival there. And I can still remember that pure joy, because I had never seen it or really heard of it before, like acro balance and things, yes, but just that accessibility of having the word yoga attached to it and how that changed my my brain, my perspective. Like, I can do this.
Yeah, I had the exact same experience, because I would never have enrolled in a partner acrobatics class, the fact that it was called Acro Yoga made it safe for me.
Totally. And then, I just did my first, I guess it was probably like a throne, a straddle throne and a passerita twist. And then I was hooked. I was just like, this is it. This is where it's at. It was so good. So that was kind of my first flirtation with it. And then after that, I ended up back in Tassie and went to the Tasmanian Circus Festival that they run down there, did lots of acro balance, and after that just kind of kick-started my journey. I met Scott in Tassie and started to train together, mainly off of YouTube videos that we could find because there was no real teachers in Tassie at that time. And then just got really inspired to keep going, and what happened from there.
How did you meet Scott?
I met Scott at a silks workshop, aerial silks.
I feel like
So-
that's a Scott modality.
It was actually me. So I used to do that. I used to do some aerial silks and I ran a workshop. I had a teacher come and run a workshop. I wasn't teaching it. Down in Hobart, and Scott rocked up as a student. And we all went to the beach afterwards, went back to his place, had a barbecue, and we just had a really nice connection, as friends. And from then on it just kind of rolled.
Had he ever tried acro yoga before?
I don't think so. Like, he might have been the same as me, had tried a little bit, I think, like dabbled, but he definitely wasn't into acro yoga at all, really, at that point. Yeah.
Oh, so you kind of started the journey together?
We totally started together. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so this combination of you and Scott, you've created Threads. So tell us about Threads and how it's evolved over the years and what you guys have created and cultivated in Hobart.
Sure, yeah. So it was a very organic, accidental kind of business. We never met each other and were like, let's run a business in partner acrobatics and acro yoga and movement and nature and all of these things. It was kind of that we came from this place of loving the practice so much, and then that evolved into how can we share this more with people, and that kind of evolved to like, I think we need a name now. And so it was just this step-by-step kind of process of adding the next layer until the whole concept was born.
Sorry, can I ask, how did you come up with the name?
We were in the park one day and we were just throwing different names around, basically, like what works, what doesn't work. And the reason we chose Threads was because we didn't want it to be just one thing. We didn't want to be branded as just acrobatics or just acro yoga or just something. So we wanted to keep it really open so that we could weave together, basically, these different disciplines. Of movement and of being in your body and of play, and to bring all that together in these kind of different ways. And also, I guess that, the idea of the universal thread, like something that ties us all together as humans, and one thing is the body, right? We all have a body. It's one common thread that we all share. And I guess even the name is still evolving for us at times. Like, what threads do we want to bring in now? Like different threads of movement, different threads of adventure, different threads of thought. So
I love it. That's such a well thought out answer. I'm glad it wasn't just like, we drew it out of the hat.
And you and Scott run regular acro classes in Hobart, right?
Yes. Yeah. We run like 3 regular classes a week. So we have a handstands class and then a beginner acro and an intermediate acro. There's a regular Acro Jam that we kind of facilitate as well. There's other jams, of course, that happen outside of that. And we run Thai massage classes regularly, just once a month. Yeah.
Where are you running them now?
We run them out of a studio. It's called the 4th Floor. Just right in the centre of Hobart. It's in like a creative arts building, creative hub. So it's a 9-story building, and on every floor there's something different and creative happening. Artists, or there's a gallery on one floor, sound creators, a bar with kind of like music and things, and then a wellness floor. So we're on the wellness floor as part of the kind of like yoga-based studio, but they have lots of different things like dance and different forms of movement happening in there as well. Yeah.
And how long have you been running the classes?
Since we kind of started, really, like, so yeah, 5 years, almost 5
Wow.
years, like 4.5 years. Yeah. Yeah. We've been in lots of different places over those years. So it's also been a bit of a journey, lugging mats in and out of different places, setting up different studios. Now we've kind of found a home, which feels really nice. Yeah.
So speaking about that journey, how have you watched the Hobart acro scene grow and evolve? Because I can imagine you guys are almost like the integral part, which is keeping everything moving.
Yes. Yeah, that's been awesome to see, actually. In the beginning, people didn't know what acro yoga was. Like, they thought it was in a pool, like a swimming pool. You know,
Aqua
like,
yoga. My
aqua
God,
yoga.
the amount of times that we say acro yoga to people and they're like, yeah, you mean aqua yoga?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, water yoga?
I've also
And they're like,
had
it's too
people say
cold in
agro-
Tassie.
People say agro yoga, like they think it's like
Aggressive
aggressive or something.
Agricultural.
yoga. Agricultural yoga. Ag yoga.
So yeah, in the beginning it was more just like educating people into what it was, like what is this thing, and yeah, it has really taken for it to grow just our constant and consistent effort and energy. So
Yeah.
we found that anytime if we would go away overseas or leave Hobart for a little while, if we weren't there, it would just fizzle out again. So we had to be there to really facilitate the jam scene for a long time. Like just one of us or both of us had to be at the jam every week for years, you know, to really build this sense of what it was we were creating, and that it was more than just a class, like a yoga class. It really was a community and an opportunity for people to come together and create and share. And that it was a lifestyle, I guess. And to get that message across took a lot of building up. But now, you know, we have a solid crew. Like, yeah, it's been amazing to see. It took probably 2 years to really establish that consistency in participants.
Yeah.
And now there's other people carrying the flame, which is really nice.
So that's what I wanted to know. So what happens when you guys go away now, like for this week?
Yeah, so now we have some like intermediate students and a really regular crew that love to play and train, and they run their own jams as well, and they keep our jams going when we're not there. And they even go to our class without any instructors and just go through the training plan that we often do because they're really dedicated. So that's really lovely to have that now happening. Yeah.
No, we've never got to go to one of your jams in Tasmania. And you mentioned during this week, there were some like skills or long holds or things you said you can take these back to your jams. So how do you run your jams? Because I've only ever been exposed to it kind of being a free-for-all, do whatever you want, no structure at all. Is yours the same?
Yes. I mean, in a way, yes. Like, we don't have a specific... It's not like you rock up and we run... We don't facilitate or teach anything to the whole group at the jam. But we do have some, like, basic information for newbies when they rock up. Just that shows, like, basic rules of acro, what's kind of expected, what's kind of cool to do and behave and how isn't. So you can just direct them there. And we always recommend if someone's never done any acro to come to a class, basically. So if they rock up, we're like, you know, jams are a place to play once you have some foundational skills, and you can come along to one of our classes and try it out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, we don't. We just give information like that in the trainings as a stepping stone that people can take away with them back to their communities, that when you're meeting someone new at a jam, instead of just being like, cool, let's pop into like a reverse hand-to-hand or something, like, oh, maybe let's like just see how you feel in a foot-to-hand, or just these things that people often won't do if they haven't had any training or instruction, haven't been to many workshops and things. Because lots of people have just come their journey all the way through the jamming community. Yeah. So it can be a really different viewpoint.
Yeah, and I think what you guys mentioned during the flyaway was people not exposed to people being injured. Like, they haven't experienced that either in their own life or in a jam setting. Like, they haven't seen what can happen from pushing things.
Yes, totally. Yeah. So, or sometimes they do, because sometimes you see a lot of injuries at jams. But yeah, they're not quite sure how to spot things correctly, or like, the real dangers, the real risks of what can happen. Yeah.
So over the last, I know you run 3 classes in Hobart. One of them is a handstand class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And over the last 5 days, we've experienced what a kick-ass handstand you have.
Oh, thank you.
Which transfers into a kick-ass high hand-to-hand. Can you tell us a little bit about your handstand journey?
Yes. I guess it probably, I used to just play around, you know, like getting on my hands. Actually, as a kid, you know, we had the game at school. It was called like 1, 2, 3 up or something. And then you could call out stuff. So it was like milkshake and you had to go up and like make milkshake legs, like banana split and you had to split your legs apart, or like mermaid and you had to roll down and be a mermaid on the ground. So
you took the game to the next level.
That's
we
right.
just played ready.
I still do my mermaids.
Steady, go.
Yeah. And I don't know, I think that it all plays a part, right? Like having that body awareness as a kid carries through a little. But yeah, then I really started properly training when I went to the Fine Acrobatics teacher training. That was the main place. They had kind of handstands every day and lots of awesome instruction. And I used to get up every morning kind of before the scheduled class would start with some other students, and we'd do some extra handstand training. I just got really keen on it, like most people do, the elusive handstand. It became this, you know, I want to get that. I just really want to get that. And I didn't get it at the end of that training. I still didn't have a solid handstand. But it was just a little bit every day. Like, I think consistency again is key. It's like it's better to do just 10 minutes a day or every few days than like 3 hours once a week or sporadically. So it was just this thing of just like, and I still do it in between doing massages or in between, you know, making dinner. I'll just get down every now and again and pop up into a little handstand. So yeah, that helps.
Would you have one tip? If you could give people one tip who, for their handstands, what would it be? What's the key?
Have fun.
Good.
With the
good
handstand.
answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there was, can you just give us the secret answer, which will make my handstand fantastic? Right.
Yeah. Drink a glass of milk upside down and say the alphabet backwards.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, actually, blowing up a balloon while in a handstand.
That's right.
That's very good.
Yeah, you know, consistent training. It helps. Getting the cues. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys have been, you and Scott working together have been in this for some time. I can imagine it's many years now. I want to say 5 years.
Yeah, maybe 5 years.
So what keeps you, as a duo and as an individual, what keeps you motivated to keep training and keep upskilling and keep coming up with new material?
Firstly, I think it's good to say that we're not always, like, it definitely goes in waves, you know, we're not always, like, just super keen and, like, constantly in this creative flow. It's, like, this flux. Like, sometimes we do, like, kind of disconnect or go off on our own little paths for a bit and then come back together re-inspired. And I think that's really important as well. That's kind of why we can keep going the way we do and stay inspired, by diving into stuff that lights us up individually as well. And yeah, I don't know, I think just like because we love it, you know, like it's so fun, it's so awesome, and it's never ending. There's so many directions we can go with it, and because of what we've done with the Reds in terms of also bringing in like nature exploration and different forms of movement and natural movement and being in your body, and even sometimes we do some sounding work and some breath work and yoga, and there's so much that we can bring to what we've created that we really have such freedom to go in lots of different directions, and that in itself is inspiring. It's kind of like we can learn and pick up little bits and pieces of anything we like and kind of bring it back home to threads. And yeah, for me, that's why it works. I'm not very good at I'm not very linear, and I'm not very good at just like sticking with one thing and following it all the way through. You know, like I'm not really a super disciplined, just straight up partner acrobat. That's not me. Like you won't find me in the gym training 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know. Yeah. And I'm comfortable with that. That's totally fine. And I totally respect people that are on the other end of that as well, and they can have that discipline. But I'm kind of like, I like to touch and play and bring things together from all different kind of places, and I can do that in this, and that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me excited.
Well, it certainly seems to be working, and it provides a very there's a lot of variety in the teaching, and we can tell as students that there is education and training drawn from many different aspects from both you and Scott.
Do you guys draw a distinction between a training and a play session?
Yes, like you mean me and Scott when we are together? Yeah, totally. So we have like scheduled training sessions where we're coming together to work on tricks that we're working towards.
So what are you working towards at the moment?
I've been like, I'm always constantly kind of playing with working towards having a really nice inlocate. Inlocated, I can inlocate but not regularly and cleanly and beautifully, and that's just one of those skills that it's kind of like the handstand, It's like just a classic thing to have.
Yeah.
And then once you get there, it's the beginning of the next whole world of what comes after. But also I love working on L-basing as well, and just creating new washing machines or new flows or new points of contact, interesting forms of balance. How can we use limbs in different ways? And so we're often just training these kind of odd styles, odd movements as well. Yeah.
So what would a training session look like? Like, how does it start?
Usually with like me and Scott rocking up, eating our breakfast, trying to warm up in the really cold. Sometimes because we're in Tassie in the winter and we train in like a big open warehouse, sometimes it can be cold there in the morning. So just coming in and jumping around. But then we'll dive into, like calibrating basically. We'll get on, we'll do some long holds, we'll go through some really familiar material that is really achievable for us, that we're comfortable with, so that our bodies can just not have to stress or strain at all. And then after that, kind of look at what we want to achieve in that session. Yeah, and then build towards progressions, and hopefully get to the final progression in that session, but not always. Sometimes we're just working the progressions. Yeah, so it's not always high intensity training, casual at times.
So you mentioned the other side of that, which is like the creativity side of it, and we're exposed to a few of the different drills and I guess techniques that you guys employ to come up with some more unique things. I'm stumbling over my words. But what's some advice you could give people listening to help them develop something new or come up with a new shape or a new flow or a new sequence?
Sure, yeah. So it's really nice to play with different points of contact. That's something that I really like. And so I think we did it in this training where it's like asking for something that you wouldn't normally ask for. So I can be on Scott in a really basic position, even starting in a bird, and just say, what would happen if you put your foot on my knee? And he can respond by saying, and what would happen if you put your hand on my elbow or on my butt or wherever it is? And it just goes back and forth like that until we find these kind of new points. That's probably something that would work for people that haven't worked together for a long time as well, because you've got this really clear communication where you can just ask for and play around with different points. Whereas for me and Scott, often we just accidentally fall into new places just by playing. We don't have to ask so much, so linearly, can I have this? Can I have that? We just kind of roll around on each other and then ding, this is cool. This works. Yeah, so that's a tool for sure.
So it's been a long time with doing acro yoga with Scott. What is it like when you play with other people?
Yeah, it is. It's great, I love playing with other people as well. But it is also nice, when Scott's just been away recently for about 3 months overseas, doing some trainings and traveling and stuff. And so when he came back and I kind of hopped on and did my first star, or I think it was a star, I just had that feeling I'm home. It's getting back into my own bed. Because your bodies start to recognize each other, I guess. They respond to each other. And you know what to expect. I know how Scott's going to move. I know how he's going to support me. I know that he knows how my body's going to move and how I'm going to respond to certain things. He knows where my challenges are and where my mistakes are going to be. And I think all of that just, when you take all the verbalness out of it. So our bodies are really speaking to each other a lot more. And so I like that because there's less headiness when I can fly on Scott or someone that I am working with more regularly. I can just kind of jump on and it just happens. But I love working with new people for that, for the other side of the coin. It's like, oh, cool, I'm getting all this stuff that we wouldn't normally do because they've got a whole different practice and a whole different, coming from a whole different background. And yeah, I get a lot out of that as well. And then you get these wild cards where you can jump on someone and they feel like home and you've never worked with them before. So, that also pops up and you're like, oh, I feel like we've just been doing this for ages together. Yeah. That's all good.
And obviously with Scott, then you don't do as much basing, right?
Not as much. Yeah. I do a little bit more these days, but yeah, still, he's not the teeniest of flyers.
Is that something, you've experienced some basing though, is that something new for you to base, or has that been from the start of the acro journey that you've done basing?
I always did a little bit in the beginning. Actually, at my teacher training, Nico, one of the coaches was always like, you should be a base. Look at your shoulders. You got a base. But I was determined to be a flyer. I wanted to be up high. And with me and Scott, we knew we were going to go back to Tassie and train. So I did a little bit of basing in those early years, but mainly focused on flying. And that's what gave me actually the foundation for being a better base. Like now I can base pretty well, most things, not high level stuff obviously, but all the basics and foundations and washing machines I can base. And I think that came from building that strength, and then my body was able to hold it. And I also had much better idea of how to base for being a flyer for so long. What they needed. I'm like, I know what you need, I've been there. So
you'd recommend that advice for bases as well, that they need to fly more?
Totally. I think it's so good to switch roles. Yeah, and feel what the other person has to do and what they're up against, and
share it.
Be in someone else's shoes.
Share the fear.
Yeah.
Share the fear.
And it's part of the practice, like the playfulness of it. Check it out, like see what it's like to be on the other side.
Well, this has been really nice. This has been such a nice morning.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I just rolled out of bed and was like, gotta get some caffeine.
Well, we turned up this morning and Ebony's in a sundress, laid out on this nice bed in this nice garden. So just for people listening, where can they find you if they want to check out what's going on with either your work or Threads?
Sure, yeah. So you can find most of our stuff is on the website, so threadstasmania.com for our Tassie Flyaway and our Byron Flyaway and our workshops and regular classes is all on there. We also sometimes post stuff on the Facebook page that doesn't always go onto the website if it's just like little offerings, especially if you're in Tassie or a Hobart local. It's good to always just jump on the Facebook page and see what's also happening that week or that day as well. Yeah, and then my work, you can always just connect with me. I also do, like remedial and bodywork sessions and breath work, body-centered counselling work, and I run yoga classes. And dive into that authentic movement practice as well.
What type of yoga classes do you run, Ebony?
I run a variety of yoga. So sometimes yin yoga, hatha, and vinyasa classes. And it's something I kind of like to call embodied flow, which is just really focusing on being embodied. And a lot of it is kind of like playful stuff that we would use in the acro warm-ups as well. So combining movement patterns with breath.
Yeah.
And taking yoga, out of such a strict context. I'm not really a strict traditional yoga teacher. I'm more like blending different movement things that I've experienced that really work for getting me into my body and feeling my body. Because for me, that's what yoga really is. It's just an experience of what's happening beneath my skin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is also very complementary for the acro yoga. I guess they complement one another.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, cool. The garbage truck came. That was a good ending. All right. So yeah,
Cool.
check out Ebony, go to a flyaway, heaps of fun. You'll learn a lot and meet a lot of new people and be in a very beautiful part of Australia. So, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Acro Jam Podcast. If you would like to help out the Acro Jam Podcast, it'd be great if you could like and subscribe on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review, or you could even write a review. But if you don't want to do any of that, just thanks for listening. The fact that anyone wants to listen to this is more than enough for us. But if there's someone you think might enjoy this podcast, or if you think your local acro group would benefit from it, make sure you share it with them. Tag us at the Acro Jam Podcast, and together we can help grow this podcast into something that can make a positive impact on the acro community. If you want to keep in touch with the podcast, you can find us on Facebook at the Acro Jam Podcast. Instagram is the same name, and like we mentioned before, there's a new website. Make sure you visit acrojampodcast.com to make sure you stay up to date with everything we have going on and catch all the latest episodes. And finally, little personal plug. If you want to catch Sarah and I's Instagram and, give us some motivation to actually do something with it, come have a look at Acro Yoga Newcastle. Be our friend, subscribe, give us a heart, or do whatever you do on Instagram. Cool. See you for next episode, guys. Peace.